sprint car race is underway at the Canyon Speedway. But as the cars come around the fourth turn, one racer careens out of control. It's a pilot. Then, an even bigger disaster. Watch again. Driver Fred Bryan, going at full throttle, clips the wheel of another car. He's airborne. 1,500 pounds of man and metal crashed through the protective fence. For flagman Dan Klein, knocking him off the platform.
It was almost slow motion. You know that it's bad and it's coming, and what do you do?
The cartwheeling vehicle misses Dan's head by less than feet.
And the only thing I could really do from where I was standing, lean back and hope he missed me, and he did.
Incredibly, even on his back, Dan continues to do his job. Red flag to stop the race.
And you don't want him coming around turn 3 and 4 at 100 miles an hour into a bunch of cars that are just sitting there.
Dan is amazed that both he and driver Fred Bryan are still alive.
Thank God was watching over not only me, but the driver of the car and the fans that were there.
An ambulance arrives, and Fred is carefully placed on a stretcher and taken to a hospital.
I was very lucky that night to just get away with the least amount of injuries that I had, and I really feel fortunate.
Watching from the stands, Fred's wife feared the worst.
It was just an unbelievable sight, and it was in slow motion. I felt like I was in a tunnel, and I couldn't breathe.
Looking at the crash again, it's a miracle that everyone survives this night of terror at the track.
Up, a racehorse crashes to the ground, setting off a horrifying chain reaction. Plus, a pilot panics when his landing gear jams. Can the ground crew reach him in time? Then later, a mysterious cloud smothers a city, leaving terrified residents gasping for air. When the world's most amazing videos continues.
Salem, Massachusetts. An armed robbery suspect has crashed his car in this quiet neighborhood. As he fled from the police, the fugitive stormed inside the home of Paul Hardy, who was making breakfast for his twin boys.
Next thing you know, I heard glass shattering, and it was right in my kitchen, and I looked up to see a masked gunman pointing a gun at me and my children.
But what the suspect doesn't know is that Paul is a corrections officer, trained to handle dangerous criminals.
Listen, you don't want to be an object, you want to be a person. So I was saying, well, my name's Paul, these are my sons, Kevin and Kyle.
Paul's wife, Gail, is at work when she learns that her family has been taken hostage. She immediately rushes home.
I wasn't assured that they were okay at that point because I didn't get to talk to them.
Police surround the house, but their efforts are hampered by a crowd of local news stations broadcasting the standoff. This allows the fugitive, Chad Austin, to watch their every move on live TV.
This gave the suspect, Chad Austin, real-time information about what he was up against outside. It put us at a disadvantage.
Inside the house, Paul makes a desperate plea to save the lives of his children.
I was scared myself, but I was more scared for the kids. You know, they were only 4 at the time.
Finally, he convinces the gunman to release the 2 boys. As the fugitive talks to police on the phone, Paul tries to push one of his sons out the front door. But the frightened child wraps his arms around his father's neck, refusing to go. Then, Paul tries to get the children to leave through the garage, but the boys are terrified. Suddenly, Kyle rushes back to his father. Kevin runs toward the police and is whisked to safety. But Paul is forced to make a gut-wrenching choice with Kyle.
The hardest thing I had to do in my life was I had to take my son and put him outside, push him out, and close the garage door on him. And he's pulling up. I can feel the door trying to come up, and he's kicking and banging on the door, and it just ripped my heart out.
Police quickly move in and carry the child away. The boys are safely returned to their mother. But now, Gail fears for her husband's life. Police officers persuade the gunman to allow the couple to speak on the phone. Gail chokes back tears, trying to remain strong for her husband.
They're fine. They're just scared. There's a lot of people.
They're all right now?
They're fine. Did they not want to come out?
Yeah, they didn't want to come out.
Okay.
Okay.
I love you.
That was the hardest thing, is to show no emotion on the telephone so he wouldn't be worried about me.
Now Paul is inside the house, facing down the gunman, alone.
Now on my 4.5 hours of frustration, now here we go. Now it's just me and you, and let's see who wins.
Paul goes on the attack, stunning the suspect with a blow to the head. Then he knocks out the window screen and tries to escape. But the fugitive grabs him from behind. Both men furiously battle for control of the gun.
At that point, it was a wrestling match. I mean, I was headbutting him. He was, yelling at me. He's going to kill me. I'm yelling at him.
Officers know this is their only chance. They storm through the back of the house. Then an explosion erupts from within.
I threw the flashbang grenade into the living room, and that did the trick.
The explosive device disorients the two men long enough for police to grab the gunman. Paul stumbles for the window and leaps out onto the lawn. He lies motionless as a SWAT officer rushes to his side. Seconds later, he is pulled to safety. Paul and Gail are reunited, and the family's nightmare is finally over.
We just kind of ran to him and just started hugging each other.
The couple was on hand when the verdict was read. Chad Austin was charged with several felony counts, including attempted murder and kidnapping.
Defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
The Hardy home is safe once again, thanks to the bravery of a father who put his life on the line to save his family.
My life was at stake for me, and his life in prison was on stake for him. So it was like, who's going to win? And, the better man won.
East Moline, Illinois. It's the 7th harness race at Quad City Down.
They're heading for the final bend, under-urging Ideal Neal with a short lead. Dream of victory trying to battle back.
Keep an eye on Ideal Neal, driven by Scott Roberts. Coming out of the final turn, Scott is about to pull ahead, but then, disaster. His horse goes down.
Ideal Neal has fallen. We do have quite a spill at the head of the stretch down there.
Let's take another look. Ideal Neal loses his footing and falls, causing a massive pileup. A violent chain reaction launches 5 men and their horses onto the track. One carriage barrels over Scott's back.
I felt something go over me, which ended up being a race bike wheel, because I had the mark over my back. I mean, I could feel horses. I had some hoof marks on my helmet.
But Scott is better off than fellow driver Bill Lappy. He was catapulted from his sulky and slammed into the guardrail. Then he's dragged by his horse until he finally breaks free from the stirrup.
I think I got drugged like 30 or 40 foot that way by 1 foot, and then I remember thinking I hope something gives here.
Bill's horse, Purple Gangster, goes on to finish 3rd without him. Remarkably, all the men and their horses suffer only minor injuries. Even more incredibly, Scott, whose horse started the pileup, went on to race again that very same day.
Now, an amazing video classic.
St. Augustine, Florida. A small plane is in big trouble. Pilot Scott Gordon makes an emergency call to the airport control tower. The landing gear under the right wing of his Piper Arrow is jammed and won't come down. Scott is advised to circle over the runway so mechanic Joe Lippo can evaluate the problem.
Scott flew by the terminal, and the only thing we could really determine was the wheel was coming out of the well about 4 inches and stopping, wouldn't come any further.
The plane is running dangerously low on fuel, and there's no time to waste. Fire trucks and ambulances are standing by as operations manager Jim Mosier quickly assembles a team of experts to devise a rescue plan.
Jim came up with the idea to pull a trailer behind the truck. And we were going to drive down the runway and maybe set that wing on that trailer.
I'm just going to go as fast as I can go, and you just see what it looks like to you, okay? Okay, good.
The plan is to tow the trailer down the runway at 90 miles an hour. Scott will attempt to land on his two good wheels while resting his right wing on the back of the speeding flatbed. The maneuver is technically possible, but extremely hazardous.
It took about 90 miles an hour because that's what it took to keep that airplane in the air. Anything less than that, and it doesn't want to fly.
Scott flies into position, and Jim floors the truck. But it's not going fast enough. If Scott tries to land at this slow speed, the plane will crash. At the last second, he aborts the landing. Then, with time running out, the men are forced to try an even more daring strategy. First, they borrow a turbocharged sedan. Then, Joe plans to reach through the sunroof and pull down the disabled landing gear. If this doesn't work, all hope is lost.
Worst case scenario there is the airplane coming down on top of the car, and I would be the nail, he'd be the hammer.
Now, the plane is running only on fumes. Joe knows this is his last chance to save Scott. Amazingly, he does it. Watch again. As Joe grabs for the landing gear, the plane lifts inches out of his reach. But Scott makes a quick adjustment.
And you could hear the throttle come off, and he dropped about 8 inches, just enough to get my hand around the top of the wheel. And I gave it one little tug, it didn't want to come, and then I put everything into it I had, and it snapped loose and came down.
Having accomplished this seemingly impossible mission, Scott is able to make a safe landing, and not a moment too soon.
It's a first for me, but it's better than tearing up the belly of the airplane, so it worked, and everything turned out fine.
Scott owes his life to a resourceful ground crew that was willing to lend a helping hand.
Up next, a dangerous high-speed chase ends with a terrifying plunge. Plus, a death-defying stunt goes bad when a daredevil gets tangled in his own parachute. Then later, an enormous explosion blows a Navy destroyer out of the water when the world's most amazing videos returns.
Houston, Texas. Police are in hot pursuit of 2 men wanted for home invasion. They broke into this house, intent on stealing thousands of dollars worth of electronic equipment and appliances. Now, they're racing down the freeway at speeds topping 100 miles an hour. They leave the patrol cars behind. Only news and police choppers are able to keep up. They think they're getting away, but their luck's about to change. Watch again. The suspect narrowly misses 2 cars and skids onto the overpass. Then he rams head-on into the car driven by Beverly Stubbs.
The first minute I saw something coming at me, I realized it was this car and that it wasn't going to be able to make that turn without hitting me.
The man in the passenger seat makes a run for it. And then he does something unbelievable. The fugitive jumps the guardrail, then dangles 30 feet above the concrete embankment. Watching in disbelief from his news chopper is pilot Rod Hooks.
The first thing I thought of when I saw him hanging there is this guy really wants to get away pretty bad.
As a patrol car approaches, the man makes a shocking choice. He lets go. The suspect slams into the embankment and rolls to the ground. But then he's right back on his feet.
It amazed me in that, number one, he would take a jump like that, and number two, he didn't get hurt bad.
Moments later, the outlaw finally surrenders to a police chopper in a nearby field.
That was a very large open field, and of course, you can't outrun a helicopter.
Beverly Stubbs is still shaken from her ordeal.
You never know when you get up in the morning what's going to happen to you. If I had had my door open or windows open, one of those guys might have jumped in the car out of just fear, or might have held me as a hostage.
To this day, even the veteran chopper pilot is amazed that the desperate man would risk his own life to get away.
The only thing I can figure is he didn't know how much of a drop he had. And he just grabbed a hole, flipped himself over, threw his body over the top, and said, oh my gosh, I got a long drop here.
Pretoria, South Africa. A 29-story building has erupted into a towering inferno. Firefighters and equipment have responded quickly. The fire started on the 19th floor and has spread upward, forcing terrified office workers to the roof. Police helicopters are able to land on top of the building and bring some of the frightened occupants to safety. More than 50 people are rescued. It appears that the evacuation is going smoothly, but suddenly, 4 people are spotted trapped on a 19th floor ledge. A dentist, his 2 assistants, and a female patient take refuge outside to escape the dense smoke filling the office. The toxic cloud threatens to explode through the glass at any moment. An Air Force chopper is called to the scene. The pilot struggles to keep the helicopter steady as a rescuer is lowered on a cable. Strong winds nearly slam the man into the building. But the stranded victims help pull him onto the ledge. The rescuer quickly straps one woman into the harness. Then they are hoisted up to the chopper. But suddenly, the building begins to fall apart. Huge chunks of debris crash to the pavement. Now the rescuers make a crucial decision. Since there's not enough time for each person to be lifted to safety, all 3 must get off the ledge at once. The cable reappears, but this time without a rescuer. Now they are on their own. The woman and 2 men secure themselves into the harnesses. And then they take a death-defying leap of faith. As they are slowly pulled up, the turbulent wind threatens to smash them into the side of the building. They clear the structure. Now they hang on for dear life as the force of the rotor blades sends them into a dizzying spin. Finally, they are safely aboard. Moments later, the entire 19th floor is engulfed in flames.
The most terrifying moment was leaping from that ledge. I'd say that was relatively difficult in the sense that we didn't know how far we were going to fall.
I thought, today I could have died, but I'm sure God was looking after us this stage.
Thanks to the brave actions of the rescue team, these 4 people were able to escape with their lives. Kent, England. 3 men dressed in gorilla costumes board a twin-engine plane. These experienced skydivers are about to perform a publicity stunt to call attention to the plight of endangered gorillas. Steve Treble recalls the lighthearted anticipation of the event.
We're sitting in the aircraft, being jovial and happy, but also thinking about the jump ahead, checking our vision and other parts of our equipment to make sure everything is okay. But we were all boisterous and happy, fairly routine.
The plane climbs to an altitude of 4,000 feet. Then the men jump. They immediately open their parachutes. Their plan is to float back to Earth in a stacking formation, one on top of the other. Steve and his jumping partner rendezvous in midair, waiting for the third man to join them. But suddenly there's trouble. The third jumper slams into Steve, causing their parachutes to tangle. The other two men cut their canopies loose and deploy their backup chutes. But Steve is helplessly caught upside down in the parachutes. Then more trouble. Steve's reserve chute won't fully open. Now he's plummeting to the ground, screaming in terror.
My whole life just went by. And then I also saw an image of my wife. And wherever I was spinning, she was there, and I just started to scream. I honestly thought that was it. I was dead.
Spectators below can do nothing to help Steve as he plunges from the sky. But one man shouts out, desperately urging him to lift his head. Steve slams into the ground with ferocious force. Watch again. Steve's reserve chute malfunctions and sends him on a deadly downward spiral. He crashes violently into the field. Onlookers rush to Steve's motionless body. Incredibly, he's alive.
The one thing that did come to the top of my mind was, am I paralyzed? And I wiggled my toes and they moved, and I didn't give a damn after that.
It's hard to imagine, but Steve suffers no broken bones as a result of his terrifying fall. He believes that had it not been for the thick padding of his gorilla suit, this high-flying protest would have been his last.
Coming up, a city is paralyzed when a mysterious cloud plunges it into darkness. Plus, its terror on the high seas when a 2,000-ton destroyer is blasted sky high. And a dance routine comes to a fiery halt when a woman's hair is set ablaze. When the world's most amazing videos continues.
Barcelona, Spain. Dance school director Rosalia Mulero is holding a recital to showcase her best flamenco students. She's about to steal the show, but for all the wrong reasons. Rosalia and her son Antonio are performing the Dance of Fire. The daring number calls for her to hold a flaming tray of burning alcohol over her head. Rosalia begins her fiery routine, when suddenly the blazing liquid spills onto her head, exploding in 1,000-degree flames. Let's watch again. As Rosalia kicks her leg high into the air, the tray tips, engulfing her hair and face in a ferocious fireball. Just when it appears she'll be burned alive, her son Antonio moves in to save her. Take another look. The tray was supposed to have been lined with cotton to prevent the burning alcohol from spilling. But it wasn't. It's a mistake that almost proves fatal for Rosalia.
I did not check the tray, and when I took it, the alcohol was running loose without any cotton. The moment I lifted it over my head, the alcohol spilled, setting my head on fire.
Once she is pulled off the stage, spectators stomp out the remaining flames. Rosalia says she owes her life to the bravery of her son Antonio.
I consider myself very fortunate because when I was in flames, everybody ran away scared except for Antonio. His quick reaction saved my face and everything else from getting burnt worse than it did.
Despite her fiery brush with death, Rosalia claims her burning passion for the flamenco will never be extinguished. Melbourne, Australia. It's a hot summer day, 110 degrees and climbing. Thousands of people pack the beach. But their day of fun in the sun is about to take a dark and terrifying turn. Suddenly, a massive cloud engulfs the city.
Just about 3 o'clock, a huge cloud just enveloped the whole area. And all of a sudden, we were in practical darkness.
Traffic slows to a crawl. Planes are stranded in the sky as visibility drops to 0. Frightened citizens panic, choking and gasping for air as they struggle to get indoors.
I think some people did think that perhaps it was the end of the world.
The suffocating cloud rolls into the city at 50 miles an hour. Melbourne is plunged into darkness. But what looks otherworldly turns out to be a dust storm. The devastating natural disaster is the result of a severe drought. In the outback, miles of dry land have become airborne. The blanket of red earth turns the crowded downtown into a swirling dust bowl. Then, as quickly as it appears, the cloud is gone. But the citizens of Melbourne will never forget the 140,000 tons of dust that turned a bright sunny day into the city's darkest hour. "70 miles off the coast of Australia, the most advanced submarine in the Royal Australian Navy is on battle maneuvers. Assisting in this exercise is a Navy destroyer, which can carry as many as 207 crewmen. The sub dives to attack them. All men are ordered to battle stations. Then, an enormous blast rips through the 2,000-ton battleship. The smoke clears, revealing that the destroyer has been blasted in 2. But there are no casualties, because no one is aboard the giant naval craft. This is a torpedo launch test, and the target is a 30-year-old decommissioned ship. The destruction, however, is real. Let's watch again as the destroyer's 4 million-pound steel hull is blown out of the water. Smoke erupts from the center of the ship. Shockwaves reduce the boat's midsection to a floating pile of debris. The ragged, twisted metal proves the lethal power of this modern war machine. If you have an amazing video, then we want to hear from you. Just send it to World's Most Amazing Videos, Post Office Box 933026, Los Angeles, California, 90093. If we use it, there's a cash reward waiting for you. So send your amazing videos today.
The World's Most Amazing Videos will return. Next on The World's Most Amazing Videos, a cowboy holds on for dear life when his Bronco bucks out of control and into the crowd. And a TV reporter is slammed into the ground when a story blows up in her face. Plus, the tornado from hell blasts a terrified town to bits. And a gas tanker explodes, filling the sky with a ferocious fireball of flames. Next time on The World's Most Amazing Videos.